Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I have an Ambassador reel come in. This is an Ambassador 6500 TC, and well, you can see from the way that the line is gathering on this spool that we have an intermittent failure with a line guide. So what I'm going to do today is we're going to go over the anatomy of a line guide operation. I'll try and fix this one in the process, and we'll show you why this almost always occurs. So you can see we're kind of stuck here now, and every now and then you tilt the reel and it gets going again. Then like here it's stopping, it's kind of retreating, and then it bounces off. So to understand what's causing that issue, you need to understand how the reel works and what drives this and what the components are behind it. So we're going to start with a basic tutorial in that, and I'm going to take the reel apart just because it's a little bit easier to do it that way. And while I do that, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel if you like fishing reel service and repair, if you like learning about fishing reel issues and how to solve them, if you like to learn how to service a reel to keep it fishing so that you don't have these types of issues, then well, this is a good channel for you, and I recommend that you subscribe to it. If you do subscribe, please use that notification button, and well, when you use that notification button, that will let you know when I'm posting new videos, which is frequently, and well, you'll see if that's one that you want to watch. There's a lot going on with this reel. We can see by removing that clip that there's a lot of dirt behind it, which says this reel has not been cleaned in a while. There's also a gap here in that release button, the free spool release button. That means it's been used an awful lot, and well, the arms on each side of this release button have dug into that, and when it's dug in, it's removed it fraction by fraction by fraction, and to the point where it's very loose. There's nothing you can do with that other than to replace the side plate on this one. So well, for now the customers asked me, can I fix the issue with the spooling? That's exactly what we're going to do. And while we're at it, I thought we would mention some other things that are going on. Now, I pretty much have come to a conclusion what the issue is, but we will kind of work our way through it so that you can do the diagnosis on it and make sure that, well, you don't pick the wrong candidate and go buy a lot of pieces and parts, or if you're doing it for somebody else, you don't have the reel returned to you because the fix that you thought it wasn't. All right, there's a lot of debris, as I mentioned. I can't even get the handle off here. The shoulders of the handle here are loaded with salt and the like, so I'm going to just scrape off what I can on that shaft because the handle's got to come up. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to back the star adjuster off to push the handle up. You can try forcing that handle a bunch of different ways. This I've found seems to be the one that's most efficient. Now there is a little tension washer between the two of these. That usually gets crushed in the process, but it's an easy rebend to restore it. You can see how the handle is working up on this one, and soon it'll be off. There you go. This is that tension washer I was referring to. When I take my pieces and parts off, they go into a parts tray so that I know where they are when it's time to reinstall. When I take the pieces off as well, I like to clean. I'm going to use, in this case, because we have a lot of that salt and the like, I'm going to use a very fine steel wool. This is a 000 steel wool. That does help with the removal of the dirt and debris. If you find that you're working on a reel that is less affected by the salt in that, you can use a kitchen scrubby pad, or ideally what you would like to use is just a plain paper towel and maybe a little bit of cleaning, either a polish or like a penetrating oil or something, or some kind of solvent to help you with that. I'm buffing off the star adjuster. And I can see the film on here that this is a saltwater reel. And well, I'm told it's fished hard. That's not an excuse for not maintaining. All right, so there's two more sets of screws that we need to remove here to get the side plate off. Again, we're going to go over to that why is this failing? And I want to narrow it down to what the features are that drive the line guide and what the most common causes of that are. All right, there's 3 screws that are, I'm going to walk them out by hand, and then there's 2 inner screws that, fingers crossed, are going to come out because I've noticed they are salt coated as well. You can remove your side plate with those 3 upper screws. I'm going to remove this spool. It's got the spooling issue on it, and this was removed because I wanted to confirm the line guide. All right, so let's talk line guide parts. On here you're going to see we have a plastic idler gear which drives the line guide. The big ring is driven from the spool over here. Just checking that. The little ring in the center here drives a metal ring here. So having said that, we're going to remove the non-gear side plate. Now this whole reel is going to get assembled, but again, the purpose of this one is to show you how to diagnose and correct that line guide failure. So there's 4 components to this that are essential. The first one we showed you was that idler gear. The second one is the worm gear that it drives. That's located under here. The third component is the line guide itself. And the fourth is the line guide pawl that rides in the track of that worm gear. All right, there's 3 screws and a post that hold this side plate on. And we're going to examine each one now. When you remove that plate, trying to keep this assembly together here on that brake. All right, when you remove that, the next thing you want to do then is kind of clean it up. There's a lot of dirt and old grease on here. We're going to do a visual check. That's the next thing to do here. So I've just used some penetrating oil to clean up the idler gear. That's plastic for a reason. If these line guide, or if the reel gets jammed up, you don't want to break the more expensive parts, so they put a plastic gear in here as a fail-safe. So if this gets snagged on a rock and somebody tries to power out of it, trying to pull up Davy Jones' locker or whatever, this will be the first one to break because it's interfacing with metal gears. It usually shears the teeth. So I'm checking the teeth here just to make sure that it's not that. Okay, these teeth are all uniform. They all got good points on them. They're not sheared. So we're going to rule out the idler gear as the cause. Now we're going to move over to the worm gear assembly that's driving this. We're going to turn by hand here. See if we can feel any irregularities. Or when we get right over there, again, it's bouncing. So we're going to say that the line guide works okay. That's the arm. But the 2 components that make up that flip-flop there are a line guide pawl and a worm gear. So we're going to remove the cap that's going to give us access to that line guide pawl. If you tap down, generally you can pull that pawl out. Aha, he said. So when you look at the line guide pawl, you want to focus on 2 pieces. You want to focus on the points of the pawl itself. These. You want to make sure that they're even. And these are not even. This one has got a strong point, this one does not. So that is likely the cause. The other piece you want to focus on, and kind of doing that here, is the shoulders. Make sure that there's no dirt there. Well, it looks like we need to replace the pawl, but don't jump to conclusions. The next thing you want to do in this case is remove that worm gear. Now the worm gears are put in a lot of different ways. In this case, it's held in by a side clip. depending on the type of reel that you're working on, you want to remove this gear, because the other potential is that you have a bad track here. So that pawl that we showed you is worn. It could be worn because the track here may be worn. I've seen a lot of these where they're not consistent. Well, best way to do that, again, visual check. I'm going to use some penetrating oil first, and then I'm going to find a hard bristle brush and pull through. We saw the dirt on the pawl, so it's reasonable to assume there's dirt on this. And clean not only the tracks, but clean the inner gear on this as well. Now do a close inspection. You're looking at the teeth on the gear here. Again, that one usually doesn't fracture, it's usually the plastic one. Then check all of these channels. Make sure that they are free of debris and that you don't see anything. These are usually plated brass or something. So a change of color will, a lot of times, will tell you what's going wrong or where the high point is or whatever. In this case, that seems to be doing okay. All right, well, I'm just going to take my time here. We'll just do a quick cleaning of this. When you have all the pieces and parts off, it's easier to just kind of clean up the side plates and the like. So we're going to do that now. It's a good place to tell you that you should be taking pictures of your work. Even on something like this, you're never quite sure. It's possible that you get the orientation wrong. It's possible that you forget how it goes back together again. Pictures will help tremendously. Well, while I'm doing a little bit of housekeeping here, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel, and you would like to see if I can provide you some guidance on it, just go ahead and leave that question in the comment section. I will try to answer that for you. All right, I'm going to turn the camera off for a moment here. I think I have a spare pawl. I'm going to check, and we'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So I do have a new pawl for that. And again, you can see, if you look at that webbing, the points are equal, the shoulders are nice and clean. Put them up against this, it's clear that the point on that one side there is less. So pawls, as a general statement, are kind of like bearings. They're multi-use. They appear in a lot of different reels. You want to make sure that you have the height of the pawl, the diameter of the pawl, and the width of these forks correct. If you can do that, well, you can probably get a lot of different reels in a series. You don't have to necessarily look for the specific one, but a lot of times there are pawls that are only made for a singular reel. All right, we've reinserted the worm gear. Remember the clip. And again, with pictures, I know that this goes to the outside. I've found it where it's been installed internally. Makes a heck of a noise, and well, some folks have sent me in a reel saying my reel's making a lot of noise. I had it apart. I can't understand why it's making the noise. Probably didn't take the pictures, and well, what happened was this part got installed incorrectly, and well, led to the noise making. All right, I'm just trying to get the leverage to push this back in. There we go. So that's the proper install there. Now we're going to put the new pawl in. Put a drop of oil in there first. Put the pawl back in. Now some of these pawls have a little washer that goes on top of it. Just check when you're working with various reels whether that's the case or not. And I like to kind of put some pressure on that to make sure it seats properly before I put the cap on. This cap does have an oil port. There is a hole in the bottom of it. It's kind of serves two purposes. You can oil through there, and it's also a weep hole for the piece on the way out. Okay, cap is back tight. Let's roll with that. and there's no hesitation here at all. So we had a damaged pawl that caused that. Well, let's just go back then and just reiterate what it is that we did. We isolated the issue once we took the drive off, isolated the issue to the 4 components of that line guide system: the worm gear, the idler gear, the line guide arm, and the pawl. We looked at the idler gear first. We cleaned it. We found all those teeth were nice and uniform and clean, not scarred or broken. You also saw me checking the back of this one. While I haven't cleaned it off yet, it does have sharp teeth all about. That's going to be the outer drive for this. Once we did that, we turned by hand. We found out that it was hanging on the side. That eliminated the line guide because the line guide arm itself was moving back and forth. Sometimes these are pinched, sometimes the shield will have an abnormality in it and it'll cause that to hang, but that was not the case. We removed the cap, we removed the pawl, and we removed the worm gear. On the worm gear, we sprayed the worm gear down with some penetrating oil, used a hard bristle brush to clean all the tracks, inspected those, and that looked good. Then we turned our attention to the pawl, which came out very dirty, and we noticed that the one side here is shorter than the other side, that the tip is broken off. And that's most likely the cause of the issue. We went and got another pawl, put it back in. Now it turns as it should. So those are the steps you need to take to diagnose the issue that you may be having with your line guide system. And then those are the remedies as a result. It's a pull and replace remedy. If you found that you had the damaged or scarred worm gear, that's the piece that you would replace. If you do that, you most likely also have a damaged and scarred pawl, so probably replace both at the same time. If your line guide arm was not tracking, maybe you'll find it's got a bend to it. Maybe instead of being straight as it is, maybe it's pointed to one side. It's possible that you got a reel that was hung up and it pulled this out of place, and when it got over here it was binding. That would have to be replaced. If you found that the line guide was binding on the shield, that would need to be replaced. And in this case, we found that we have a damaged pawl. That was the piece that needed to be replaced. So diagnose them, find the right causes of it by using the steps we just went over, and that will help you to eliminate buying a lot of pieces and parts that you probably don't need, and focus on the piece that is causing the issue so that you can service the reel, get it out there fishing again. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've learned something from it. If you did, please like the video. Again, if these are the types of videos that you enjoy, please subscribe to the channel. And if you do subscribe to the channel, please use that notification button to let you know when I am posting. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, taking a moment to thank our police, fire, safety, rescue, and all of the folks that are involved in public safety and as a career. And also taking the time to thank you for making this channel what it is and your viewership. Everybody have a great day, fun times on the water, keep your reels ready to go, and well, it just adds to the excitement and enjoyment of the sport. Have a great day.